14 Sexual exposure tests women use on men and how to pass them backed by science. Not every sexually charged moment is about seduction. Sometimes it's about filtration. A woman will create sexual tension just to see what you do with it, not to get closer, but to decide if you're even worth her vulnerability. That moment she pulls back. Right when things heat up, it's not rejection. It's a mirror, and if you react poorly, get too eager, too passive, too rattled, it shows her everything she needs to know, because desire isn't dangerous to her, your response to it is. And the final test? We'll explore. It's the one most men fail without ever knowing it happened. 1. The controlled flinch. She leans in slightly, brushes your arm, and drops a phrase. Like, I bet you say that to all the girls. It's playful until your nervous system fires off like a pinball machine. Do you freeze, deflect, laugh? Too loud. What she's watching isn't just your answer, it's your micro-recovery. She's testing how quickly your masculinity re-enters when teased, touched, or cornered sexually in behavioral science. This taps into impulse restraint, the ability to regulate arousal while maintaining connection. It's not about suppression, it's about composure without withdrawal. Because the flinch she's watching for isn't physical, it's emotional. And when you meet her gaze without scrambling to impress or escape, she feels something rare. Emotional containment. But what happens when the tension doesn't come from touch, but from timing? To the delayed reply gambit. Imagine this, you're texting, she sends something provocative, not explicit, but suggestive enough to stir tension. You reply instantly. Seems polite, right? But what if I told you immediacy can sometimes signal internal collapse? In these moments, women unconsciously read speed as emotional reactivity, a lack of pacing control or sovereignty over your own arousal rhythms. It's not about playing games. It's about regulating access psychologically. People who delay response not by manipulation but by natural priority create what's called a cognitive prediction loop in others. This loop builds intrigue, uncertainty, and deeper emotional investment. When a man takes his time, not out of hesitation but wholeness, it triggers a test passively. You felt the charge, but did it own you? 3. The too soon agreement trap. You're in a group. She makes a playful, edgy comment. Something like, guys who dominate the room, hot heads turn. She glances at you and you, eager to match her wavelength, say, yeah, confidence is everything. It lands wrong. Why? Because you passed her test. To icily agreeing to quickly, especially with her bolder opinions, can trigger status devaluation. It reads as submission disguised as islands. Behavioral dynamics show that people instinctively test for hierarchy through conversational friction, a willingness to hold slight tension rather than dissolve it. Passing this test isn't about being combative. It's about integrity, pacing, not rushing to fuse with her even when it's tempting, because the subtext she's reading isn't due. You agree it's due. You stay upright or bend at the hint of heat for the look. Away freeze. You're on a date. Things are flowing, laughter, glances that almost touch moment, but then, just as the tension peaks, she looks away, eyes on her drink, still quiet. This isn't a loss of interest. It's a pause, a deliberate silence to see. If you escalate without permission, it's a test of your relationship to emptiness. In psychology, this taps into your ability to tolerate limbic uncertainty when emotional cues vanish. Do you force closeness or respect the gap? Most men fail here. They try to close it. More jokes, more touching, more talking, but what she's measuring isn't charm, it's presence under non-validation. When you can sit in that pause without reaching or shrinking, something changes. You stop chasing chemistry and start generating gravity. 5. The insecurity spike test. You're dressed well. You've had a good day. You walk in and she notices too much. She says something offhand like, oh wow, who are you trying to impress tonight? It's playful but sharp. There's a flicker of tension. Why? Because this is a disruption test, a check on how you handle shame. Based attraction triggers when your confidence starts to rise. Does it stay pure or does it fold under guilt? Behavioral studies show that people, especially women, will sometimes spike insecurity to observe self-concept resilience. If you downplay yourself, self-deprecate, or explain the glow, she reads not stable yet, but when you absorb the compliment without inflation or denial, a quiet thanks felt good. Getting dressed today, you pass. You show that confidence isn't a performance, it's lived. Embodiment 6. The accidental overshare. You're deep into conversation, then she drops it sometimes. I wonder if I self-sabotage when I really like someone. It hangs there. She doesn't cry, doesn't explain, just floats the phrase and watches your face. This isn't vulnerability, it's a threshold test. She's testing your response to sexual emotional proximity, the blurry space where attraction becomes intimacy and danger. Most men fail by fixing. They say, no, don't say that, or you just haven't met the right person. They rush to rescue the narrative, but women read safety, not in your fixes, but in your non-reactive witnessing. If you can hold her truth without solving it, just nod, breathe, and stay. What she feels isn't logic, it's limbic, permission, and sometimes passing. This test feels like doing nothing, but it's the kind of nothing that heals 7, the energy. Withdrawal, reversal, everything's been flowing. She's warm, open, flirty, and then she emotionally steps back, less texting, fewer jokes. A flicker of coolness in her tone, she's not gone. Just changed. This isn't ghosting, it's what psychologists call a prediction reset. She's altering the tempo to see if your energy is reactive or internally sourced. If you chase harder, escalate compliments, or get visibly unsettled, it reveals dependency on her energy pattern. But if you hold steady, neither punishing her nor begging you, pass the test of energetic self-possession. This shows you're not addicted to the highs. She gives you were already full before she arrived. 8, the compliment flip curveball. You're out, you say something sweet. Maybe you compliment her dress, her laugh, her vibe. She smiles, pauses, and flips it. You don't seem like the type to mean that she's smiling, but her words twist the moment and it stings a little. Why? Because this is what psychology calls a frame retest. A subtle challenge of your intention. To see if your emotional expression collapses under skepticism, this test is less about the compliment itself and more about how anchored you are in your praise. If you backtrack, explain, or suddenly apologize for saying something genuine, she reads that your warmth is transactional. But if you calmly reaffirm, I said it because I meant it, without needing her to agree, that's power. That's the difference between seeking approval and standing in your felt truth. 9, the group recalibration test. You're with her and others, friends, co-workers, mutuals, one-on-one. Things are flirty, flowing, but suddenly, in the group, she treats you colder, more formal, even ignores you a little, and you wonder, did I imagine the whole connection? This isn't rejection, it's a hierarchy filter in social dynamics. Women sometimes recalibrate behavior in public spaces too. See how you handle social identity fragmentation. Do you cling to the private connection and demand attention? Or do you hold your center, letting her shift personas without punishment? What she's testing is how you metabolize inconsistency. If you stay present, unfazed, and don't force intimacy in front of others, you show something rare. You're not addicted to the version of her that makes you feel special. 10, the disruption as intimacy test. You're in the middle of telling a story, something important, and just as you're building your point, she interrupts, changes. The subject says something bizarre or off topic. It almost feels rude, but then she looks at you, holds eye contact, and waits. This is psychological disruption used as a test of attunement in behavioral science. Breaking conversational rhythm can reveal whether someone is validation seeking or experience seeking. If you need to finish your point, explain yourself, or win the moment back, you fail. You show you were more invested in being heard than in meeting the moment. But if you pivot with grace, interesting shift, tell me more about that, you pass. You show that your confidence isn't built on completing your own story. You're adaptable without disappearing. 11, the I'm not ready preempt. Things are going well. Touches linger. You both know where this could go. Then suddenly she says, just so you know, I'm not sleeping with anyone right now. It feels abrupt, like she's backing away, but look closer, because this isn't always about abstinence, it's a sexual exposure decoy. She's watching what you do at the distance psychologically. It's a boundary primer, a test of whether your presence is desire-driven or choice-driven. Do you get awkward? Do you pretend you weren't thinking about sex at all? Or worse, do you get angry or withdraw affection? Passing this test doesn't mean hiding your desire. It means letting her boundary breathe without changing your warmth. When you stay connected, respectful, and still real, you become the kind of man most aren't safe without shrinking, honest without pressing. Still with me, because what happens after the night ends matters just as much. 12, the morning after reveal. The night was amazing. Deep conversation, energy, maybe even intimacy. You both wake up, you're soft, affectionate, and then she says, I don't usually do this. You laugh it off. Or you freeze. Here's what's really happening. She's not confessing shame. She's testing for post-connection constancy. Behaviorally, women often associate physical closeness with emotional memory loops, and the morning after is the moment that activates cognitive dissonance. Are you still present, or were you only in it for the moment? Most men fail this test by downplaying the night, joking it off, or suddenly acting more casual. But when you meet her words with gentle clarity, there's no judgment here. I'm still right here. You send a message. Her nervous system here's first. You don't disappear after pleasure, you expand. 13, the mirror sabotage test. You compliment her again, this time something deeper. You have this calm presence. It's grounding. She looks away, says something like, you wouldn't say that if you really knew me. It's not modesty, it's a mirror test, a push against your perception of her to see if your connection survives her inner war. What she's doing is inviting you into the place where she doesn't trust her worth. Most men run here. They try to flip it. Don't say that. Of course you're amazing. But that bypasses the test. Psychologists describe this as emotional congruence. Mapping, can you acknowledge her shadow without trying to erase it? The right answer isn't always comfort. Sometimes it's simply saying, maybe, but I still feel what I feel around you, and I trust that. That's when she starts to feel safe. And finally, the test. Most never pass because it happens after you leave 14 the space.